News.
It has to be one of the toughest decisions you're ever going to make. Do you keep or do you fire that Rockstar salesperson who delivers the goods, writes a lot of volume, but you know they're toxic for the organization? I've got a story to tell, and it's one that affects many, many people in this industry. The FAM podcast begins right now.
1894, Max Englander hand-built the first Englander mattress. Today, Englander mattresses are still bench-made right here in the USA. Proven materials, expertly layered, and every stitch triple-checked. All for you. Englander, better sleep by design.
Hey, are you a mattress retailer looking to supercharge your business? Introducing Podium, your secret weapon. I use it, I'm a huge fan of it, and with Podium's AI-powered lead conversion, you can engage with customers in seconds via text, making it feel like they're talking to a friend. But hey, that's just the beginning. Podium offers texting, payments, reviews, website chat, and more, all in one place. You've got to be the most responsive retailer to help customers solve those sleep problems in the moment. Harness the power of Podium today and start growing your business. Visit podium.com right now to learn more.
Welcome to the FAM podcast with Mark Kinsley. This is where the best in the betting business get even better.
You have made it to the #1 podcast in the mattress industry. I'm your host, Mark Kinsley. Thank you so much for being here. Once upon a time, in the bustling heart of the city, nestled among quaint shops, stood Serene Slumber, a mattress store known for its luxurious offerings. The star of this serene domain was Eliza, a sales associate whose eloquence about the art of sleep was unparalleled. Eliza didn't just sell mattresses, she sold an experience. She understood that a mattress was not merely an item, but a vessel for dreams and a sanctuary for the weary souls that slept on it. Her words painted a picture of clouds and comfort, enticing customers into a realm of restful bliss. One afternoon, a harried businessman entered seeking a simple pillow. Eliza guided him through the aisles, her words weaving a narrative of rejuvenation and peace. Enthralled, the man left with a top-tier mattress, marveling at how he had come in just for a pillow, but left with a promise of better sleep. In another instance, a young couple, unsure about their choice, was captivated by Eliza's description of a mattress as a foundation of their life together, a haven for love and laughter and dreams. Mesmerized, they invested in one of the most expensive sets, convinced by Eliza's charm. Despite her remarkable sales skills, Eliza struggled with the technological aspect of the job. I mean, the point of sale system was her Achilles heel. She hated it. She found it cumbersome and frustrating, often leaving it to others to handle that final transaction detail. She couldn't be bothered with it. This reliance on other people revealed a deeper issue. Eliza was high maintenance, needing constant support and assistance. She couldn't really be left in the store on her own. She excelled in sales, but faltered in operational tasks. And therefore, she was unable to lead the store on her own. She excelled in sales, but faltered in operational tasks, leaving her unable to manage the store alone. Beneath her successful exterior, Eliza harbored a greed that tarnished her brilliance. She began selectively engaging only with customers who showed potential for high-ticket purchases, often ignoring those who sought more affordable options. Behind closed doors, Eliza made arrangements that served her interests. She covertly reached out to high-end clients, offering them exclusive deals outside of Serene Slumber's purview. Her ambition outgrew the store's walls, and she started to view her sales as her personal territory, becoming increasingly possessive and secretive. Harrison, the store owner, began noticing discrepancies. High-value mattresses were sold, but the profits didn't reflect these sales. Concerned, he decided to confront Eliza. One evening, as the store's lights dimmed, Harrison approached Eliza, his expression a mix of disappointment and resolve. "Eliza, we need to talk about the sales numbers and some inconsistencies I've noticed. Eliza turned, her face a mask of composure, yet her eyes flickered with a hint of panic. The confrontation she had been dreading was unfolding. Harrison, I can explain, she started, but her voice faltered. Based on real details from a source that I shall keep anonymous, that is a story that I punched into the magical GPT, refined a couple of times, added a little bit of my own text, and there you have it. The story of a Rockstar salesperson who is toxic to the business. How many of you have had this? I bring it up because in the Mattress Mentorship Mastermind, this is a common and recurring theme. Businesses grow, they get bigger, they have rockstar salespeople. Small businesses have them. What do you do with somebody who is riding a bunch of business, but potentially behind the scenes you've noticed many other issues, many problems, whether it's like Eliza's inability to use a CRM or a point of sale system, or her brushing it off and letting somebody else do that dirty deed, to dealings that don't seem above board. Well, we've got a special guest here to comment and guide us on this very issue. What do you do with a rockstar salesperson? And before we get to this special guest, who's been on the show before, he's a friend of the show, I will tell you that I spoke with some people that were having this very issue. They got clarity around that problem and they made a decision on it. And that decision turned out to be the best decision they could have made. Because hanging on to the people that seem like rock stars, that seem like they're propping up your business, can only bring problems along that should have been cut off earlier. All right, let's bring in our guest. I'm bringing in an expert on this subject because in the Mattress Mentorship Mastermind group, at Dream Camp, at Sleep Summit, I've heard so many mattress retailers talk about this central issue. I've got an amazing salesperson. They're selling more than anybody in the company, and they are a huge culture suck. They are actually making things worse. Bob, have you ever heard of anything like this in your life?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? The one guy I competed against when I was first starting out in clothing, and I would complain to the owners, and it's like, this guy, he's selling more because he's giving buy 2 shirts, we'll give you the 3rd free. He's doing all these different deals underneath it. And the owner, John, took me aside one time. He's like, Bob, high volume covers a wealth of sins. It was like, but you're killing margin. And he's like, it doesn't matter, it looks good. Well, that company was out of business about 2 years later after I left. And the reason I say that is because I think a lot of times we ascribe supernatural abilities to someone when you and I both know there's no mystery to selling. Either you have somebody that's running the floor, right? They're able to hear when somebody's saying the right thing and they go over and steal that sale from another employee who can't do it as well, or they're finding other ways around it and they're doing side deals or they're cutting your margins. And I just say, part of the thing about if I'm the owner, I'm training someone how to sell. The job is for you to train someone else to be able to train someone to do the same thing. And a lot of times we don't. We just take that rock star salesperson. We say, oh, you're now the manager. So now you've made it even worse because nobody can compete with that person. But there's no two ways about it. I can do the work of 2 people, but I can't be 2 people. And I was in one of my earliest things, I used to sell cowboy boots in Los Angeles back in the 80s. Give me a break. You weren't even born yet. And Dallas and Dynasty were really big. And I took over the #1 store and it had been failing for a long time. And this woman, her name was Jerry, and she wore moccasins. Now, moccasins only cost $20. And I already decided she was a loser because she clearly didn't understand you had to wear expensive boots for everybody to do it. Like me. Be like me. And then I realized how unassuming she was. And the other manager just stole all of her sales, so she looked like crap. She knew what she was doing, but there was no room for her to actually show up in that sales organization. And I just wonder about that with you, with Rockstars. What has your experience been with that, Mark?
Well, I've been talking to people behind the scenes, and this is some of what has been passed along to me. I'm going to read it to you. Female employee, she crushes it in every sales with a very high ticket average. She's turning water into wine. People coming in for a pillow, but they're leaving with $5,000 mattress sets. She takes ownership of the business, treats it as if it's her own. She goes above and beyond, strong work ethic, top-notch treatment. And then you get to the cons. So all that stuff sounds great.
Great.
Can I hire her?
Problem?
Right. So the cons: can't learn technology at all. Like, won't even use the POS system. Walks a lot of lower to mid-range sales because she is only going for the home run every time. Very needy, very high maintenance. Can't leave her alone in the store because she lacks operational skills. Does not fit with the company culture, does not fit in the core values, can become greedy and possessive with sales, not very teachable, or has a hard time learning. Overall, this owner says, sometimes I love her, sometimes I can't stand her. A friend for years, but now I'm at the point, should I let her go or figure out how to make it work?
Oh, so someone like that, I did a speech, and I forget who it was. They're high valued items like flooring or something. Big association. And I took questions at the end. There was a breakout. I took questions. And this woman pretty much told me a story not far from that about this guy who worked for her. And I said, you need to fire him right away. And she's like, I couldn't fire him. And then we went back through about how he walked on water, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, I can tell you one thing's going to happen. The day it hurts bad enough, when you've lost enough money, when something's gone wrong, they're going to be gone. And when they're gone, people are going to come out of the woodwork telling you, I would never go back to your store because that person treated me dismissively. I would never go back to your store because of what she said. And so time passes. I'm doing a Facebook video 2 years ago, live. And this woman chimes in and she goes, excuse me, I apologize. I told the story at the Facebook thing, but a couple of days before, this woman calls me. Hi, it's Kathy someone's, whatever her name was. Do you remember me? I was like, I meet thousands of people a year speaking. No, I don't. She goes, oh, I was at the flooring convention and you said, I was like, oh, I know exactly. Yeah. You're right. I finally fired her last year. I'm like, oh my God. I fired him last year. And all of those stories came true in spades. Things happened that I had no idea of, that had been put under the rug, refunds that weren't rung into people, were never processed, things that went wrong that were never brought to me. And my whole operation is struggling now, and it's because of her. And I would have before said it was because we lost her, and now I realize it's because I kept her so long. So I would say to those of you out there that are telling me how great you are, you're trying to sell me on it. The ones you really need to spend attention to when it's not a culture fit. Culture is it's a we're doing this together. And the deal killer for me is the first thing you said when they refused to use technology or the POS system, or CRM. When you're not willing to do the tools I need to be a business in 2024, you pretty much have fired yourself. Is that what you would agree with, Mark? Or would you say?
I agree with that 100%. I remember an old adage about, if you find that an employee is stealing from you, do you fire them or do you give them another chance? And the answer was, you fire them because it's the first time you've caught them. Absolutely. And I think similar situation applies here. And really, we were in Bentonville and we had our mattress mentorship mastermind crew come back for our first in-person event after Sleep Summit. And this very issue came up with another company that had a Rockstar salesperson. This was a central issue. It was infecting their business in a very meaningful way. This person was a rock star, but it was cancerous and all these different dynamics that we kind of just described. They left that event with clarity. They fired him. All the stuff came out of the woodwork, and the store is now selling more.
But to not make light of it, I get it, whoever wrote that to you. Because you want to believe, like, I think I'm seeing a duck, but I want to see a rock. And you're like, dude, it's not a rock. There's like, I mean, it's not a duck. There are no feathers on this. It's a rock. It's going to sink you. Yeah, but I think it's like you wouldn't have told that to me unless you knew what you had to do. But you want to ask somebody's permission, like, do you think that makes sense? Yeah, makes sense. Get rid of them.
And it's a trust your gut type of moment. Now, what do you think about this? We also kind of waded into some of this territory around this idea that when the business owner changes or the business is ready to evolve, and you have a staff that needs to, let's call it, to be onboarded into that change, the idea kind of bubbled up of, hey, like people just expect certain things and they're really stuck in their ways. And then when I try to do something for them that's unique, then it becomes an expectation. And now we're trying to change and now our culture is growing and our business is growing, blah, blah, blah. Well, the idea bubbled up of what if we re-interviewed our entire team and interviewed them for the job that's going to come. So I'm throwing it out. React to that.
I would be so pissed as a salesperson. You do that to me, that would be such an ego hit. It's like the time I think I can say this. I was about to be hired for Omega to do a series of Omega, the watch people, do a bunch of trainings around the country. And the stipulation was I had to come down and present my presentation to the executive CEO. I'm like, this is BS. I've done this. I'm a worldwide speaker. This is so beneath me. And I was like, shut up. Let's go do it. So I put it aside. I go down. I do it. He leaves after like 10 minutes, comes back at 55 minutes. And he turns to his guys, what'd you think? And I said, well, it's like when Mad Men. And he goes, oh, if you know Mad Men, we're in. He's hired. Now, at the time, I thought, this is beneath me. But on the other side, it did open the doors. So I would just say, if you did this, you would have to address the ego to help me get over that. Because for me, I could see that, well, geez, this number of speaking engagements, it's ego that's speaking here. But if I was actually a commissioned salesperson, like I imagine you're dealing with, you would have to find a way to help me get through that. It might be the way you talk about it. It might be some way to prepare me. But the threat becomes, it's kind of like what we said in an earlier podcast about the word you use, policy. If I were in a customer service moment and you say, it's our policy, you just added gas to the flame. So if you said you're going to interview for your job again, and I'm your number one guy, your tact is what's going to be necessary. I'm not saying don't do it, but the way you prepare that ego for it is going to be key.
Let's dig into that a little more, because I think you're right. You know, it's the language, it's the format, it's really the spirit behind it is the company is going to grow. The company's in the middle of a transition and some change. We want everybody to be a part of it. How do we onboard them properly with that change?
Yeah, you might think of it like you're kind of inventorying the skills of the group. The trouble is with it, when I say I'm going to interview you again, it means you have to justify me hiring you, keeping you here. And so already you've put me in the defensive. And hard to believe, but I have a big ego. And so it would get in the way for me. I'd be like, screw this. I can do this anywhere. They don't know what they've got. I'm the best thing since sliced bread, et cetera, et cetera. So, or just saying, it's that interview for the job. It's like,
what if we threw that term out though? And we're like, but you and I are just brainstorming for a group that's in the middle of growth, and their team, they're pretty sure like what got you here is not going to get me there, but maybe there are some people that are going to show up and exceed our expectations. How do you like get people to self-select out while being honest with them about where you're going and onboard them properly to kind of like sift out the.
Let's think of your earlier example, the woman who she's a terror, but she sells a lot. if that was her, I mean, that would be her ego, definitely, who would say, I'm not going to do it. This owner would be scared to death to ever question what she does, right? Because she's walks on water or wine to whatever it was, the example he gave. So, you could also say it as for many employees, we just want to make sure we get the right fit. I want to hear what's right and wrong with your job. I want to hear what you think yourself, what are some areas that you think you're hearing from customers that we should be looking at that we're not serving right now. I would try to put some other things around it than
Maybe
just
treat it like a one-on-one.
it has to be a one-on-one, but it's not done at you at a desk. It's probably done side to side, might be at Starbucks. It's got to be a non-threatening area, and there's got to be a clear purpose what you're doing and how long it's going to be. Like you're not winging it. You have some questions you want to know. You're not grading it. And here's the thing, if they're not a fit, then don't go through that exercise. It's okay to say, you know what, I just don't think there's a fit. Help me see otherwise in the new direction we're going.
Going back to Rockstar sales syndrome, any other, so a lot of times when things go wrong, they go wrong at the beginning. What about managing that? Obviously if you can hire the right person, but you don't always know. What if you start to see glimpses of that? What does a manager or an owner or a leader, do they need to do to course correct with that Rockstar salesperson?
You always got to ask questions. One of the things we like to, again, the challenge comes down to if you haven't trained them, if you haven't trained anybody, right? There's no system. We just have an up system. I was at Ashley Furniture last summer, and they had a greeter at the front at a podium sitting like he might have had a big gulp right there with him, if I'm not mistaken. And he's kind of resting his hand right there. And, hey, what are you here for today? And I was like, that is the lamest greeting I've ever heard. And I was like, I'm just looking around. All right, well, let me know if you need anything. And I'm looking around, and there's 3 employees in the middle. And this guy glumly goes back and joins the other 3. I guess that was his up. And he expected me to walk back to him. Well, that guy's not a rock star, but that's to me the thing I would spend more of my time working on, which is the dispirited person, because they're costing you just as much, if not more so. They don't even give you the benefit of the high volume and the rotten culture fit. They just give you the warmed over dead fish syndrome, which is I'm here, I'm breathing. They told us to stand at the front, and that's our ups. None of us are making money, so we're all going to sit in the middle and bitch about it so that people can hear us, and then we expect the customer to do the job. So I think it's both sides. I mean, I had a crew at South Coast Plaza, #1 mall in the world. We got highest increase of sales. All of them were like me. It was a great moment. We did great. And we all had a unified thing. But it was a nightmare to have to massage the egos, because people would get into those little things and you'd have to try to keep them in line. But I will take that any day over a quiet one where no one cares if you stole the sale. No one cares if you greeted them. So be careful we're not spending the time in things that really aren't helping move the needle. We're looking for problems. I think the problems are right in front of us. And there's probably lower hanging fruit I would go after before the top performer. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'd
it does
much
make
rather
sense.
develop the lower performer so they're nipping at the heels at them. And they're using the POS system, for example. They're using the CRM in new ways. They're finding AI tools through ChatGPT and all these other ways to write their personalized sales letters. They're using Watson, whatever it's going to be, and they're going to beat that person. That's what I want. And you can train that. That's my last point, Mark, is that, it'd be nice to say, oh, someone's coming in fully trained in the mattress bedding industry. They understand construction, warranty, price point, promotion, events, follow-up, doing all the add-ons. That sounds great, but you're delusional if you think they're out there, because all the good ones have jobs already. And when they show up in your doorstep, something went wrong. They got fired or they quit because they couldn't perform. So you're going to have to not take that as the holy grail and say, oh, great, that was it? Great, let me show you, and I'll tell you a quick story, and then I don't want to overstay my welcome. So I used to be with It's a Grind Coffee House. I was the CMO. We grew up from a startup to 135 locations across the U.S., If you ever saw Showtime's Weeds with Mary Louise Parker, that's our brand that she's always sipping out of. That's our brand. And so we do our discovery, we do a 2-week training course, and we invite the franchisees to bring their manager in. So the franchisee brings this one young woman, and she's from Starbucks, and man, like, our drinks were called something a little different, and she'd refer to them exactly like Starbucks. Be like, that's not what we call it here. And we finally, at the end of the 2 weeks, said to the franchisee, I don't think you want to keep her. I don't think that, she's perfectly trained. She knows all the drinks. She was number one in her region. I was like, yeah, was she? Okay. So our Go Live trainers go out there, and they're opening her store. And they say they're there when this manager says to the owner says, put it with that coffee. And the woman says the Starbucks name back. And she goes, oh, you mean this? And she goes, no, we call it this. She goes, we both know Starbucks is better. And that's when it hit. It hurt bad enough to hear it. And she fired the woman on the spot. And on one side, I say, that's great. But she'd already invested months working with her, and she didn't want to see that. So just be careful that those little things we talked about, when they come up, just note it and say, should I have gone through that door like we did? We kept saying, like, we don't do it. And at some point you're like, this is a willful issue. This isn't I don't know better. It's become a no, I know better. And the last example I'll do, have you ever walked down the street and seen a dog wagging its tail? You ever seen the tail wagging the dog? Never. Sometimes you have to say, I'm the dog. You're the tail. That's my rules. And if it's right or wrong, fine.
Yeah, you are the big dog of training, Bob Phibbs. Hey, thanks for chiming in on this topic, because I think a lot of people end up with Rockstar salespeople that run away with their business, and then they feel anxiety about what to do, and is it going to kill their business, or is getting rid of that person the right move? And really, from every super wise person I talk to, they've all said the same thing. If you're at that point and your gut tells you that person is toxic, fire them, because all those different things are going to come out of the woodwork.
Here's the litmus test. If you don't look forward to working with them that day, that's your body saying you need to make the change, because they've already, a lot of times, their brain left a while ago and the body is just there. So, the person that you say, oh, they're so great, it's always surprising how quick they find another job at a competitor, or how quick they are willing to trash you. And I had one of our clients, she has 2 stores right across the street from each other. And so she hears this manager, an assistant manager, saying in front of the security cameras, oh, well, without us, she'd be dead because she's so stupid. We're the only ones that know what's going on. So the owner, when they came back to her store, you're fired. The next morning, the 2 were out in front of her store telling all of the rest of the employees how awful this owner was. And the funny thing was, all the employees went in with her, and the other 2 were left out in actually, they went back to their car and just fumed. And what happened? All of those loyal employees banded together, told her all the horrible stories that had been going on for years, and sales increased. So I just want you to all to think, it's terrible. We've all had to do it. We have to get rid of somebody. Nobody likes that anxiety. But when you just move through it and you see like, oh, it doesn't have to feel this way, you can pat yourself on the back, because future self just came back and said, thanks for doing that.
You were at low tide and it stunk, and then a storm blew through and the sea was restored.
And now you're sailing smooth.
Bob, thank you so much, as always, for popping over here to the Fan Podcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please give us a review, give us a like, share this with your team, maybe even share this with a Rockstar salesperson Be like, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. And if you're struggling with this, just know that you're not alone. Lots of people go through this, and I think Bob gave us some really great answers. And hey, you can always reach out to me as well. Go to fam.news. You can text us. on our podium number, and we can connect. All right, we'll catch you here next time on the Fan Podcast.